Greetings, I am Herbert Erpaderp, and a group build over on my Discord server has just ended, so today we're going to check out the entries. The topic of this group build was alternate history. The idea was, obviously, to model something from an alternate history. A small change, or a big change, as long as it was different to actual history, so nothing historically accurate. At least not to this timeline anyway. There was an additional rule for this group build, where entrants were required to provide an explanation for their alternate history, so this should be interesting.
Well, stop waffling and let's check it out.
Yes, let's. A cool person with shades and ice creams entries are set in and after a German invasion of Malta in September 1942, which saw Axis troops taking the island after bitter fighting, especially on the beaches, where German towels constantly appeared on the sunbeds before the Brits could drag themselves out after the night before. The first diorama is after the last round has been fired. This tank, which is a Tamiya 48th scale Matilda II, is being stripped down by German mechanics. I really like the camo pattern that's been used here. I believe there was some indecision with this diorama, and difficulty in getting all of the models to fit and look right. I believe the next image is the first iteration, but it is part of the same story. I think that camo also looks really interesting on the quad truck, though it does seem to be suffering from some sort of mechanical issue. Here's a second diorama with stuff that didn't fit on the first. In April 1942, Hitler, in a meeting with Mussolini, had suggested using captured Soviet heavy tanks in the assault, along with an ice cream after lunch. What we see here is a captured T-34 and an abandoned 25-pounder. It could be that these guys have stopped here to unabandon the 25-pounder, or maybe they're just waiting for lunch, and then ice cream. Even if I've misunderstood the order of these dioramas, they are really well done, and I think having two dioramas, instead of trying to cram everything into one space, has worked out to be the best course of action. Very nice work. Dominican Boy's first entry is this Rolls-Royce armoured car, model 1920, belonging to the independent county of Bedfordshire, which was captured during a raid into neighbouring Mosleyite territory. This is a 35th scale model by Rodin. I believe this exists in the universe of a very British Civil War, which isn't something I know a whole lot about, just that it was included in the information I was given. The figures on the vehicle represent a tanker of the Bedfordshire Regiment, and a member of the militia who is armed with the standard SMLE rifle, and wears a captured Mosleyite Stahlhelm. I do like that the bonnet is removable here, so you can see all those engine details. Very good. Dominican Boy's second entry is from an entirely different world, and a whole history for it has been created, with a whole lot of names and words that I'm just going to slaughter if I try to read them. But you can read it in the group build images section of Discord. It's pretty cool. This interesting vehicle is a mishmash of various bits, built on an STRV M40 hull in 72nd scale from IBG. The figures and dog are from Orion. I assume that's a manufacturer, and not the Constellation. I quite like this diorama, and it's a great example of some kit bashing to make something unique and new. If you need justification for keeping a bits box, this might be it. Next up we have Herchion's entry, which is a Hawker Hurricane in service with the Emu Empire. The write-up for this was pretty great. I especially like the part about Australia being regarded with envious weird orange eyes, and blasphemous emu science. This is one alternate history that would shake any Aussie to the core. The model is a 72nd scale Hurricane from Airfix, and the decals were designed by Herchion himself. They represent the eyes of the emus, and I think that's pretty clever. I really enjoyed this entry. Very creative and funny. Oh no! Monol's entry is described as Kampflaufer 1 Kieler, and I believe the English translation for that is Combat Walker 1 Kieler. Monol's story, which I've heavily abridged, begins around World War I, where armoured walkers were designed for battlefield use. By World War II, various nations had their own combat walker programs, and in the 70s, in West Germany, Rheinmetall was awarded the contract to develop and manufacture a Kampflaufer for the Bundeswehr, thus Kampflaufer 1 Kieler. Monol had decided to try something new by customizing a Gunpla model for this build. The kit itself is a demi-trainer in 144th scale from Bandai, which Monol says that he wouldn't recommend by itself, but is still fairly happy with the outcome. I think it's pretty cool myself. After all, who doesn't like stompy robots? I don't know how big it's meant to be, but it looks like it could be pretty stompy. Musei's entry is the TJR 1936 Johnson Lightning Bug medium tank at the Battle of Lubbock in March of 1945. It seems the turning point in this alternate universe is April 6, 1862, where a lack of breeze causes a sharpshooter's bullet to hit General Sherman in the head, unsurprisingly causing his demise. The lack of Sherman and his skills leads to the Civil War ending with a treaty that allowed the Confederacy to keep their independence. Some 80 years later, after the fall of Britain and France, the Confederacy launches an invasion of the United States. The ensuing war produces the famous Johnson medium tank. If you've been around our Discord for a while, you'll know that Musei has a keen interest in the American Civil War. I rather like the application of that interest into a modern topic. The model is a fairly heavily modified Warlord Sherman in 56 scale, with various bits of armour added to it. I quite like the German-esque armour around the turret, and the hull kind of reminds me of a T-14, the one from World War II, not the Armata. I think this is awesome. Vetron X's entry is an abandoned Grilla 15. The alternative history for this one is pretty simple. Late in World War II, the Grilla 15 was chosen as Germany's next Waffenträger design. Production began late in the war, so most of the vehicles were in their factory colour, or not painted at all, before being sent to the front right away. The model, which is a 72nd scale 3D print, depicts a Grilla 15 that was abandoned, and now, after the war, is being restored to a functional museum piece. It might be a simple change in history, but who knows what the far-reaching consequences might be. Okay, so that's all of the entries in this group build. The models are fantastic, of course, but I also really enjoyed everybody's creativity in coming up with stories for their builds. I have omitted a lot of that storytelling for brevity, and to save my voice. It's pretty good though, so if you want to read it, and I suggest you do, check out the Group Build Images channel over on Discord. Speaking of Discord, that's where you would go if you want to participate in the next group build, the topic of which is ERA everything. The idea is a model of any kind with ERA, that is, explosive reactive armour, attached to it. This, obviously, has a lot of potential to be hilarious, so if you want, go and participate and have some fun with it. I hope everyone had fun with their builds. I really enjoyed this one myself, so thank you for taking part. And of course, a very big additional thank you to Monol for managing the group builds, from dealing with all of the voting to compiling all the pictures and information that makes these videos possible. Hell yeah. Okay, so that's it for now. Subscribe if you want, support on Patreon or Ko-fi if you're able, links are in the description below. Take care of yourselves, be excellent to each other, and thanks for watching. Farewell.